Hi, I'm Shanika Center, and I'm the Virtual Content Specialist for Middle School Science for ELS. This week's lessons are going to be focused on building student agency, and all of the scaffolds can be used in lessons despite grade level or unit, but we will be focusing specifically on lessons of week of March 15th. And this is the first of 3 videos on student agency. In today's video, we are going to be briefly discussing the idea of building student agency, why should we do it, and how do we do it with ELS. And then this video sequence will be focused on 4 different strategies: breakout rooms, tools for collaboration, building connections to students' culture, and building in student choice. And of course, at the end of the videos, there will be some helpful pointers on how to implement these strategies in your classroom. So what is student agency? So student agency is giving students the opportunity to have more autonomy in their education and the learning process. So students are able to make decisions and they feel that they have a voice in what's happening in their classroom. Student agency is really important for when you are teaching ELS because they'll feel more empowered to make decisions about how they want to learn something, and even as far as picking the resources and the presentation methods to demonstrate their learning. So again, the 4 strategies that I'm going to be talking about in this lesson sequence are breakout rooms, tools for collaboration, building connections to students' culture, and building in student choice. So breakout rooms. What are breakout rooms? I'm sure you've heard about breakout rooms, but you may not be so sure how to use them. So breakout rooms are when you take the full class and you put students into small groups. When we're in person learning, you would probably just call it group work. But so why should you use breakout rooms? Breakout rooms are really great because it provides you with an opportunity to work more closely with students and to target the resources to be more aligned to students' needs. There's 2 ways to do breakout rooms. You can do homogeneous breakout rooms or you can do heterogeneous breakout rooms. So really quickly, let's talk about some of the benefits of each method of grouping. So again, homogeneous, similar ability grouping. The 3 main benefits are teacher support, you're able to differentiate more specifically, and students can work at their own pace. Sometimes students may perceive that being in one group is not as good as being in the other group, but if you create a community around everyone's learning and meeting students where they're at, that's typically not a problem. I'll leave this up here so you can look at it a little bit longer. But again, when you group students homogeneously, it's really easy to provide student support. So if you have a group of students who have developing proficiency in English, like entering and emerging ELS, and you really want to focus your attention on pushing their learning forward, if you group them homogeneously, you can be a facilitator and you can provide more support to that group of students rather than having to bounce from group to group to group to group to support the students with developing proficiency. This also goes for students who have higher proficiency. So you're expanding, commanding ELS, you can provide them with additional resources that are more targeted to their language proficiency rather than just grouping them in with students who may need, paragraph frames. So an example of when you could use homogeneous grouping in the lessons for this week, lesson 73. So this lesson is asking students to gather their work to create a post-discussion reflection. So in this case, students could be grouped homogeneously. You could support students in answering these questions in a way that's more appropriate to their level. You can provide paragraph frames, sentence frames, and work with students to complete these tasks. You can also go through their work more easily, say if there's only 4 or 5 kids in the group versus the full class. Again, students who have higher proficiency levels, again, your expanding, commanding, even your higher transitioning students may not need all of that support. So in order to push their learning, you can put them into a group with each other and provide them with much more reduced scaffolds. Grouping students heterogeneously. So again, heterogeneous means varying ability grouping. So this could be a group of 5 students who are entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, and commanding all in one group. So Some of the benefits of this type of grouping or this style of grouping is student support. So you can really increase peer relationships and peer collaboration when you have these different abilities in one group. This also leads to the need for different responsibilities. So when you are grouping students heterogeneously, you must make sure that you have student roles, so one student doesn't take over all of the work. An example of a role could be like a timer, right? A student who is responsible for taking time and moving the group forward. But a more rigorous role or responsibility or job in a group could be the evidence finder, right? A student who looks through a predetermined list of evidence provided possibly by the teacher and finds evidence that helps answer the question that the group is trying to answer. A student could also be the summary writer. So there are ways to differentiate your student responsibilities or roles to be more applicable to the student's language proficiency. Again, we kind of want to stay away from group roles like timer, materials collector, especially because those responsibilities or jobs aren't necessarily tied to language development. Our students, regardless of their level, have something to contribute and offer. We just have to make sure that we specify how they can do that in a group, especially a heterogeneous group. Another benefit of heterogeneous grouping is all students have the same expectations. One of the negatives of heterogeneous grouping, which I'm sure you've experienced, is students sometimes feel that the work is going too fast or it's going too slow. It's not as tailored to their level as they would like. Yes, of course, this is an issue, but again, it's really important to make sure that students are focusing on collaboration and the skill that comes along with collaborating. An example you can use this is in the Unit 4 Day 2 lesson, where you're asking students to create a class concept map. So this lesson is there are 4 different things that students must do. Each of these expectations be a really easy way to differentiate the work. You can easily create roles that align to students' proficiency levels and skill levels. So there are multiple ways to do breakout rooms. If you are on Google Meets or you're on Zoom, there are often buttons that you can click that allow you to make these rooms. Some school Gmail accounts do not allow for you to create breakout rooms, but fortunately, if you schedule a meeting through your school's account, you will see the breakout room feature. It's really easy. You just click it and then you click the kids that you want to go into whichever room. Same thing for Zoom. There's a button at the bottom that says breakout rooms. The list will pop up and then you click on the names that you want to go into which group. If you do not have breakout rooms on your Zoom or your Google Meets account, there is a way to create breakout rooms, and I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. So what you're going to do is go to Google Calendar. So just click the day and then go to add title pop up. I say group 1. I make sure that this goes on for all day. Does not repeat. I say repeats every weekday, just so I always have these groups scheduled for when I want them. Add Google Meet video conferencing and then press save. So now every day, every Monday through Friday, you have group 1. So then when you go to Google Classroom and you want to post an assignment for today where students are going to be working in groups, you would assign it to those students who you wanted to be in each group. All right, some tips really quickly. So groups are not fixed. Let students know that their groups are not always going to be the same. Another tip, make sure you're being intentional. Don't just put students in groups for discipline or behavior or these are all the kids who show up. Make sure you're really being intentional about providing students with language support. You want to put students in groups to push their learning and push their language. Point 3, make sure you take scaffolds away. So if you're providing students with all this differentiated work, you want to move them towards grade level work. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.